getting dark on me. Sun's going down.
Why this video?
Heard it here first, right here.
Ever heard this president say one negative thing?
But through Operation Warp Speed, we're on track to have 100 million.
One campaign strategy seems to be to call Biden a criminal. Why is that?
He is a criminal. He's a criminal. He got caught, read his laptop, and you know who's a criminal? You. CNN, that's all they cover. COVID, COVID.
Any place for fossil fuels, including coal and fracking, in a Biden administration?
No, we would work it out. I have never said I oppose fracking.
You said it on tape.
I did show the tape. Put it on your website.
I'll put it on.
Would there be any place for fossil fuels, including coal and fracking, in a Biden administration?
No, we would work it out. We would make sure it's eliminated.
What about, say, stopping fracking and stopping new pipeline infrastructure?
I have never said.
Trump Towers, he said he was doing it before he hit the ground floor. Remember what he said? He said, I'm going to take on those rapist Mexicans. Then he claimed, no, there's never been a president.
You all know, but most people don't know, unlike the African-American community, with notable exceptions, the Latino community is an incredibly diverse community. with incredibly. If you're poor, you cannot do it. Poor kids.
Trump Towers, he said he was doing it before he hit the ground floor.
But through Operation Warp Speed, we're on track to have 100 million.
White lives don't matter. Here you go.
Man.
If you're poor, you cannot do it. Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids.
What is up? Audio working? Looks like it's working. So I was just adding some clips for just at the end of a little whatever short broadcast I want to do. I don't have a whole lot to share this week. And Friday I just got too busy. And I think there was also Halloween, right? Friday night. So yeah, and then Saturday, or no, it was Saturday was Halloween. But anyway, we were busy both nights. And we just got back from cruising up around Payson for the day. So for the wife and daughters come up here and annoy me, trying to do this video quick. So anyway, we slowed down this week a little bit, or the last couple weeks. We actually had a couple days a week ago, like Monday and Tuesday or so, were pretty cold for us, you know, to go from like high of 90s to a high of like 68 degrees, 70 degrees, you know, that's a big drop. And then it crept back up into the 80s through the end of the week. And I think it was over 80 today. I didn't even look. All I know is, you know, we did run the air in the truck part of the time today. So yeah, high of 86 degrees. So, oh man, it was a high, I'm sorry, it's 86 now. It was a high of 95. I thought it was warm when we came back down the hill. Dang. So 95 for a high today. And then tomorrow down to a nice chilly 88 degrees for a high. Starting out at 64 degrees. And then looks like 80s. And then a dip up into the 90s on Thursday and then 80s. And then looks like we're going to cool off over the weekend a little bit. So that's our week down here. How about you guys? I know a lot of you guys, yeah, probably 20, 30 degrees less than what these numbers are. High of 17. Where's that, Igor? Where are you at? 34 for Derek. Yeah, I'm actually a little warm right now. It's like the air is probably going to kick on pretty soon. So Chicago, yeah, well, for Derek. Where's Igor? Oh, Idaho. Idaho. What part of Idaho? Man. All right. So in like 3 weeks, I will be, where is it I'm actually going? It's like within 13 miles of Boise. I think I'm going to be just a little west. I'm trying to remember what town it was. Nampa, that's where I'm going to be at. What's the weather like in Nampa? Should I just ask? Nampa? Is that what it is? Nampa? Did I spell that right? What's up, guys? I have no idea how that opened that. I just guess I used the wrong thing on there. But Boise is awesome. So you're up north. So you're a little more cold because we're going to be in this area, and going up there. My brother is in this area, and then some friends of mine. The guy I started HVAC with in the '90s, he moved from Tucson back up to Payson. You know, it just so happens the same week of Thanksgiving he's going to go see his brother right here in this area, Boise. So we got a rental house that we're going to share. So it's coming up in about 3 weeks or whatever that is. Almost 4 weeks, 4 weeks. So that's what's going on. So I'm going to be in this area of Idaho. So, oops. I'm going to mess my thing up. So, sounds like how Eric O from South Main's Napa. Yeah, so that's where I'm going. Oh, right here, weather, 54 degrees. It had it right there the whole time. So, population 228,000. Is it that big? Or was that giving me all of Idaho? Nope, that's Boise. Okay, but I'm sure Nampa is about the same, right? So Boise's more of a main area, right? It's a lot bigger than Payson, that's for sure, but nothing like Phoenix. A little more spread out up there. Oh, my video monitor's just, I don't know. I hate when they do that little reset thing. They both just went black on me. So, boy's exploding from here. Yeah, so, anyway, yep. So that's where I'll be. And I think it's a 13 to 14 hour drive. I thought I could do it in one day. We went to somewhere over here on the east part where my sister-in-law is. Closer to Idaho Falls, probably. I know we went through Utah for that one, and we stopped someplace in Utah overnight and then drove the rest of the way, and then on the way back, I drove the whole way back to Utah, back to home. Yeah, it was a long drive, so I think I can make it in one drive. This time it's going to take us through Nevada, I think, but through Vegas, but my wife doesn't really like that idea, so she wants us to leave on the Monday instead of and then drive and stay in a hotel. So anyway, so yeah, so heaters. So there's a boiler, probably not really needing to run yet, but this is for water source heat pumps. Somebody did the maintenance. Usually I do it at this place, but somebody else did it like a month ago, and of course they keep scheduling it in like September last month, and it's like you can't check the boiler. It's just you can't even get the cooling loop cold enough for it. So we come back just a couple days ago and did it. So I know it's kind of silly having this cover off, but I just did it for the picture. It's got this little port right here to check it out. But I ran the units. I have a little short video I guess I could play for a second on that. I don't have a whole lot this week, but whatever. I know you guys are like probably freezing and everything, but yeah, we really don't need heat except for the wife's grandma that moved in here. It got down to like 72 in our house when we got to that cold snap, right, of high of 60s and low of like 50 something. And the house got down to 72 in here, and she's like, "Hey, you guys got to run the heater?" I'm like, "No." And remember, I don't even have a heater for upstairs right now. I put in that Lennox put-together unit that I know when we get into the in-between season, which I expect there to be an in-between time where I don't use any heat or any cooling, that's when I'll be putting, I got to convert it to a heat pump. Right now it's a straight cool. I installed it as a straight cool because that's what the condenser was that I got. So, yeah. So either I've got to, maybe I should bring up a picture for the guys that haven't seen it, some of the newer guys. I'm getting to my picture here. Two different. Here we go. So I had 2 piece of shit Goodman units. That's what this house was blessed with. So this one, I pulled that one out and put in a Lennox that I got for free, actually. This is the one that's a 3-phase straight cool, and there's a VFD basically driving it in there. And I forget what I have it set for, but it's like 40 hertz is for first stage, and then 60 hertz for second stage, and then the ECM blower and the new air handler I installed up in the attic. You know, I hooked it up first and second stage up there. I meant to redo and put an actual return plenum on here, and this is the flat plates how the old one was, and it was in the middle of summer, so I did, or beginning of summer, so I just slammed this in, wham bam, thank you ma'am, from the old piece of sheet that was up there. Let's see if we can show a picture of the old piece of sheet Goodman. Oh yeah, there's the old rusted out Goodman. See, it was a flat plate right here. So yeah, and that's the one, the TXV took a crap on me. So yeah, I put the, make sure the audio's still working. Put this ream in there, thermal zone. Pretty solid units. I like those rolled edges, man. The only thing better is some of the newer air handlers. You know, they have the twist knobs on them. Actually, I'm thinking of furnaces. I don't think hardly any air handlers have twist knobs. I wish they did. So I guess you don't really need to get in there too much. So yeah, that was that. Thanks, Igor. It's kind of funny. The audio was working just a second ago. I still don't know why this new Logitech times out after a while. Times out on its own every time. So if I take enough breaks and flip up the mic, then it doesn't happen. But if I just keep continuously using it, it times out. It's weird. But anyway, this is the 3-ton condenser I put in place in my 4-ton upstairs, and I put a VFD in it, single phase in to drive the 3-phase compressor that's in it. 40 hertz low, 60 hertz high, and this just brings on the outdoor fan. Got an ECM to throw in there. I know these are new. They replaced the old ones that sounded good. You know, these are like the pseudo surround. Yeah, I like those VFDs. Okay, they're pretty simple. You know, and they seem to be popular, so maybe that's just why I'm fine with them. And I hardly ever have to replace them. They seem to be tough as nails. So. Also, we were all talking before and about burning up the diode. I was worried about burning up the diode pack in there because the diode pack was made for 3-phase input, and I mean, it was using single, which means it's only using a couple of the diodes. Was worried it was gonna like fry them, and who knows? They could be so oversized they'll never fry. But I, for shits and giggles, built this thing. This is my AC power coming in, and it goes through this rectifier here, and then I don't need these capacitors here, but I stuck them in there, and then it leaves this little project box as DC and goes into that VFD now. So now that VFD has no AC power plugged into it. It's only DC going into that VFD now, and this has been like this since, what's the date of this picture? And this picture, you know, is probably the last time I modified it, 8/16. So like. Yeah, August 16th, right in the middle of the summer, man. I put, this heat sink, I put them on there, and I just soldered on these tabs and then just plugged this is where the AC 230 volts plugs into, and then it just comes out DC. I've checked that thing several times. It's ever since I added the fan into the enclosure of it, as silly as it looks, it never ran hot. It ran just fine. So, yeah. And this is just a picture inside my unit. Some of you guys have already seen this, but those that haven't, inside that new condenser, this condenser had never been hooked up ever, and I cut this hole with my plasma cutter and countersunk in that VFD and then put a bunch of this white silicone here. So basically this side, I took the fan off, I don't need it. This side's just air cooled, by the condenser air, and then the other side you saw is in the control section. It's been like that all summer. And some of you may know I have a water heater in my garage I made out of a water source heat pump. So it's still working. It worked. It made it all summer long. I just, speaking of this thing, I did have to go out there and change some settings. I got this working in the spring and ran all the way into the summer, and I had it kind of set to would go to 40 hertz until the leaving water temperature started going over 130, and then it dropped down to the slower speed of 35 hertz. And these VFDs, the cool thing about them is when you, while it's in whatever speed it's in, if you just walk up and change the speed and hit enter, it saves that in memory. And then now whenever that digital input goes to that, that's the speed it runs. So you don't have to go through perimeters or nothing. So it's pretty easy to tune and I already have it wired, just to do first and second stage for my controller that I have on it. And so I was running 40 hertz, and then I would slow it down to 35 once the leaving water got over 130. And it was like 100 degrees in our garage for most of the summer. But now that it's cooled off a little bit, our garage is getting down to like the 80s sometimes. And I noticed that the output dropped, and it took longer for the heating curve to go up. Expected, right? Just like a heat pump being in the colder weather. So I actually bumped it up to 55 hertz. And then when the leaving water temperature hits that 130, so now it's getting to that point quicker, then it's dropping down to 38 hertz. Kind of farting around with it a little bit. And then the garage has actually started to get kind of cold in there sometimes with the heat pump, my water heater heat pump, refrigerating there. So this picture obviously was taken when I first set this up here. I don't have any of the pump and stuff hooked up. I don't know if I have a picture in this folder with the pump and everything. Nope, that's what used to be in that spot. Just junk. That water heater is brand new from 2019. I put it in, my house got flooded. That water heater has only ran its electric heating element for like 6 months, and then I disconnected the heating element, and it's just been running off this, that and this recirc pump. I don't know where my photo is of it all hooked up. If I find them, I need to put them in there. This was my homemade controller for it. It's got some triac outputs here, and then the main controller. Is that the controller I used? Might be. I can't remember. We'd have to go out there and look. So, yeah. Spotted Ecobee. Oh, was that when I was still sitting out there on the wall? Yeah, the Ecobee right there. Which picture was it more clear? Is that the picture? Man. Nope, wasn't that picture. Pepsi Cola, you saw the Ecobee just by looking at the edge of it? Is that how you saw that? Or you just remember from before? But I had that out there for testing. That was a free Ecobee thermostat for us. We each got one to try them out. And that's the top of the line one with Alexa in it, Amazon Alexa. And then when I hooked up my new unit, I actually did hook it up. It's upstairs in my house. If I go over there and open my door and ask Alexa a question, it will answer me. I could probably, my kids do it. They could yell upstairs from downstairs and talk to the stupid thing. And they'll be like, she'll go, Alexa, who are you talking to? And it'll be like, I'm talking to Macy, Sean's daughter, or something like that. I'm like, whoa. Somehow they taught it that or something. I'm like, okay, you're giving that thing way too much information right now. My ice machine. I do need to put a new probe in there, but that I got used and stuck in my laundry room. I've been using that for myself all summer long. That's been nice. Everybody's been using it. They kind of fill up their ice chests and stuff, and we keep soda in there. Those of you that weren't watching this stuff earlier in the year, but this is back, what's the date of this picture? May 8th. Okay, when we got the... It's kind of stupid, but when we got the money, what happened to the probe? What are you asking, PepsiCo? What probe? The old Dream furnaces. I'm looking at a couple comments there. I don't know. The ones that were made not too long ago, I didn't mind too much. The old Reams ones with those thermal type of switching, flame detectors, those sucked. The ice probe. Oh, the ice probe. It just was stuck and everything. I had to fiddle with it, and but it kind of screws up still. Sometimes I got a bunch of ice melted together, and I think what happens is it warms up just enough to kick on, and it starts making ice, and then the stupid thing will shut off, I think, and then it'll turn on and then drop part of that partially melted ice and slurry mix. It doesn't have a curtain on that small one, so it just drips right onto the fucking ice that's in there. Oops, sorry about that. But anyway, we don't hardly ever see Amana furnaces here. Amana's not a course, they got bought out by Goodman, so we really don't see them. So I don't see the residential stuff that much, and hardly anything is a furnace here. We're almost all heat pumps here. But anyway, remember when this Convid thing started, and then they were giving out all the money to everybody. And we got the stimulus. Well, this is where my stimulus check went. I bought stacks of used solar panels with it. And here where they were when I was kind of just laying them in my yard, hooking them up, and couldn't wait to start farting around with them and whatever. I had them all hooked up and hooking them up into the VFD because I kind of had a feeling I could stick high voltage DC right into one of these and run a motor. And it was hard to do it because I found out that there's only a favorable angle for the sun to hit these things, sharp, acute angles. I think you lose your, density per square inch or whatever they call it. I mean, I kind of figured out what's going on, but that's pretty much what it is. So there's a favorable angle where you get your 100%, but once you're real acute, the lights spread out. You don't get as much, power. Basically the density per area. So I really didn't get a good power to actually set them up on that thing, and didn't have. If you have any shading or shadows on parts of the cells, it really drops down the output. So when I built that, there's when I got rid of some trees to make room. Oh, these are just photos I kept abusing my truck right after I got it. Look at the thorns on these freaking lemon trees I got rid of and stuff. A lemon tree I got rid of, and another tree. Man, every tree in my yard has these thorns that just kicked my ass. It sucked. There's when I started coming home with some supplies and built this freaking hodgepodge. Damn bastard freaking audio, huh? Anyway, I was saying I built this. I called it a pergola, but it's really just something I intended just to put the solar on, but I disguise it as a pergola because of the HOA and the city and everything. And nobody said anything to me, and that's when I was starting to get the panels stacked on there. So I put 20 of them on there, and then 2 more on the end. So there's like 22 panels now. This was 20, and then 2 I put on the end. So I don't know, if they worked 100%, it would be 5,000 watts. But you get that when the sun is, mostly overhead, and then it's a percentage of that as the sun, the angles becomes more acute. And I'm just flipping through. A lot of you guys have seen this back when you were watching back then. And this, I think it was my pump from my misters. Never really did use that. But this is some power we brought in, 120 for that. This is the disconnect from my DC from those, and I think that's the last picture I have in there. But anyway, the solar from that, does go and interconnect into the disconnects that all come into here, into this. So this VFD, like I said, right now, no longer has AC power. This is a earlier picture. The AC power going from the block here down in there isn't even connected. It's all rectified in that other box. That rectifier box I made. All interconnects here. It goes to this. AC to DC, DC over to another J box that has a disconnect that's coming from the solar, and then interconnects there and then goes to that VFD. So it's kind of like sharing. It pulls power from my AC and the solar, but I've been trying to build this damn rectifier. I obviously didn't get it done for summer. And I just made some headway with my MOSFET and finally got it to do some regulation down in the garage without blowing anything up. But I need to make an interface to read the high voltage DC. I need to lower that and isolate it and feed it into my microprocessor. Microprocessors only take between 0 and 5 volts DC. Obviously, the high voltage can't come anywhere near that. So I was just trying to use voltage divider into a optical isolator, and there is which is just an LED emitter and receiver basically inside those, a photo transistor or whatever. And it doesn't have a full linear range, but it does have a range where it does vary the output of the transistor. So as long as I kind of tune it right, I can convert, once I get this working from that high voltage down to a usable level, feed into that optical isolator, and then use the optical isolator's circuitry I wire to feed a variable 0 to 5 volts into my microprocessor. And all I really have to do is just get somewhere in that linear or within that transitional phase of the output of the optical isolator, just get that tuned for right where 300 volts is, and then that way when I can have a threshold and have it a comparator basically program, and when it goes lower it starts increasing the pulse width modulator, and when it goes over 300 volts it's going to start backing off the pulse width modulation. The idea is it's 330 volts rectified from AC now. My solar panel is also 330 volts. The idea is once the solar makes good power, it will. I want to make a regulated 300 volts coming from my house power utilities, and then that way, as soon as it starts lifting off that 300 volts, because the solar is making good power, and obviously it's not going to sag, right? It's going to be at least 300. It'll automatically shut down the pulse width modulation in my circuit and run off of solar. And then in the transitional part, as the sun's coming up, it'll draw some power from my solar, as much as it can. Basically, as it starts to sag under 300, it'll just increase the pulse width modulation off the utility side just to maintain 300 volts. That's the idea. Because 300 volts DC and your VFD is the same as what you get if you run 108 volts into it. So the compressor is fine with that. And as soon as the sun comes really up there, the DC bus is going to actually go up between there and 330, basically. So it's going to be pretty cool if I ever get that circuit to work. I'm an amateur electronics guy. Obviously you look at those circuit boards, inside your units, they have a lot to it. I always try to do it with minimal, but I do a lot of trial and error, letting the smoke out, all that kind of stuff. So what is Scott asking? The one that is installed correctly? I'm not sure what he's asking there. Furnace boards. Change out of my neighbor's AC system carrier, train, or Linux. Gosh, well, we don't see much Linux here that much anymore. I've never hated Linux because some of its stuff's pretty cool. Like the Prodigy boards are cool, but they have so much wiring and they change their stuff so much, or they used to when I was working on it regularly, that they kind of scared technicians, and then they kind of criticized them for that. Some units had all the same color wires with just numbers on them, things like that. And we used to work on the Linux pulses. They kept updating the circuit board every couple of years. Every time we needed a new board, it wasn't a board that we could just stick in. We had to change the whole wiring harness. And then the same thing with their 90% furnaces. They used to give us whole wiring harnesses in a kit. You couldn't. I mean, the furnace is like 3-4 years old. They can't even give you just a board to just unplug and plug in. So other than that, Linux has always been pretty, up there with their tech or with their ingenuity, even if they had issues, at least they just tried, So, okay. He was replying to the other guy, so. But we have a lot of train here. But we probably have the most of on the commercial side for just regular kind of package units and splits is Carrier. Carrier became probably some of the more popular. There's a lot of train out there, but I think Carrier, if you just go on what people have installed, the Carrier is just probably one of the most popular brands out of the regular just 5-tonner to 10-tonner, package units and split systems. Just a lot of Carrier. So Bosch, I've only seen Bosch on some water source heat pumps. We have some Bosch water source heat pumps. They're a little different. Haven't had to work on them that much yet. Carrier junkers. Well, for the Carrier, I'll tell you this, Igor. I just bought another big bag of number 12, I think it is, screws. Well, so it's still 5/16 nut runner head on them, but number 12, I think it is, for the threads, because they constantly strip out. You think Goodman made them. I don't know what it is, but those package units on Carriers, man, a couple times those screws are stripped out. And people keep making new holes, and they'll make another new hole. And the next thing you know, it's like Swiss cheese. You keep trying each hole to see which one's going to be tight enough to hold the cover on. It's just ridiculous. So I like to get whatever. I hope Joe is kidding with that comment. That's blasphemy. Goodman units. Do I have to show him the Goodman picture? Where did I just save it to? Oh, man. Let's see. It's in my HVAC folder, I think. And there's a guy that we've seen driving through the city. I've seen him twice now and actually ran into him. He was actually a maintenance guy at a school. Or no, I think he worked for the contractor, I'm sorry. Or something. But he met me at a school. Oh, I know I saved the photo. What did I do with it? But anyway, there was you guys seen it that says like this guy actually made a big sign and put it on the back of his truck, and it was this Bash and Goodman. That's where you can put bolts on that Goodman. So Goodman units, man, that's just absolute blasphemy. Let's see here. Alright, so I don't have a lot to show you guys. Oh, here, I'll play a video. Give myself a break here real quick and play a short video. Just I haven't done much this week, but here's something that we did. What's up? Checking out a boiler. Getting ready for the heating season. We're almost at the end of October. And of course here in Arizona, in the desert of Arizona that is, we don't need heating yet. Looks good. But to be able to test it, of course, I have to run the cooler towers in manual mode, bring the water temperature down closer to 60 to get that boiler to operate. 60 degrees, so I should be good to put this back in auto. Let the boiler do its thing. Old battle axe. Now let the boiler bring the water loop up to normal at this point. It's an old battle barge, but it runs very well. The heat is not in high demand down in this region, so our furnaces and boilers actually last quite a while here. Yeah, Goodman headphones right there. So I was just saying that boiler was like the first boiler for the season so far, and still a little too warm for it. But I was saying I haven't done a lot of videos because I had worked with some techs and stuff. So I was helping a guy here. I came over here with a service tool to plug into the Mitsubishi. And I spent too much time on that before I realized I couldn't use it. So I forgot the USB plug. In fact, I need to find what I did with it. It might be here, right here. The USB adapter for my Surface Go that goes from C to the full size and everything. I didn't have it in my work truck, so I couldn't plug it in anything. I was like, dang it. I had this clunker piece of crap, Asus that I have like a Panduit strap to hold the charger in. And I had installed the software. And then there's the service tool. It's hokey. It's almost as hokey as the Daikin one. So you plug in this USB port to it, and then you have just two cables. Remember I told you I blew one of these up? Well, I did something this time, guys, to prevent that. Before I even hooked it up, I put electrical tape across these screws. I was up on a hot, bright roof, and I had the two interface wires on these two branch box connectors, right, which is 30 volts DC, and it powers up your tool. And then I I took it off and I go, oh, what was that reading? And I went to hook it back up and put it on the other red and black wire, which was the high voltage, and blew it up. Blew one of those up. They're like $300. So I didn't get it to work because I found out that it has to match something with the model number or something. And the model number is, guess what? A new train number, because this is the train labeled Mitsubishi. And evidently they don't have worked out the service tool stuff with all that yet. Thanks for that. So I just flipped the switch. I think it's switch 2 and the switch number 4 to do a pump down, so it opens up the DXVs fully and all the fan coil units. And there was 5 of them on this is a 5-tonner. So there was just a leak they had to fix. They found the leak because the customer saw it dripping oil, and it only lost a pound out of this thing. I weighed it out. It was like, wow, it was such a dinky leak, but it made an oil drip, and they found it. It was on a coupler too for a straight shot. So, yep. And then I finished the day putting another pneumatic VAV together. I don't know if I showed you guys one of those other ones before, but there was one of those, dang, I don't know if I'd have one in here. These old train ones, man, they're crazy. Trying to see if I'm looking in the folder to see if I saved a photo. I know there's a photo somewhere. I just wasn't prepared for it. But basically, it's got like a piston inside a sleeve, and as the piston thing moves with like an air shock in the middle, like your air pressure pushes it open or pushes it closed, you know, it has slats in there. But as they get older, I notice they start binding and they'll get like stuck. So I've just replaced them with the regular dampers type. This has just a blade damper. So I put the box in, and then the actuator, and then hook up the Titus 2 pneumatic controller. Here's my air pumper. How do you guys like these crazy things, huh? And then you have your, you know, it's crazy, but like you have your little screw for the minimum, you know, CFM, and then your max. This is like a reset point. I don't even fuck with that. These are universal, so you do normally open, normally closed for the damper, whether it pushes closed or pushes open. This one was normally closed and it pushed open. And then you have your direct acting, reverse acting. It was direct acting. The more pressure from the thermostat, the more it was supposed to output or whatever. So that was working good. Got it set up. This place is hodgepodge, man. It has like a little 12-inch flex coming in, and then it goes to this huge duct after, and then it feeds like 10 or 12 offices. The airflow is there, but it doesn't blast by any means. And this is an outside perimeter offices, and they didn't put a VAV with electric heat or anything on this one. And it's always got like that 55-degree air feeding it from a train Voyager on the roof. So what this job's doing, have the techs have been doing, is when winter comes, they up the supply air. So I did that the other day. I changed it up to like 62 or something, just so it doesn't overcool the space so bad. What do I have here? Pretty much most of the show and tell. What do you think about the smoke damper? Right. Yeah, I've done that for my own motors for shits and giggles, Dave. I did that to my one here, one of my Goodmans, and it lasted a little while, but then it did start freaking out. As long as it doesn't like take the material away from the sleeve bearing, we could polish it up and oil it. It could work a little while, but it gets really hot here though, so you kind of get screwed there. But the one last, well, this is my room, but my I had issues. Those of you, I don't know if you've followed, but I kind of like make some of my own controllers sometimes, and I'm in the process of trying to work on another project, but then I don't finish the project before that, and I have all these different projects in my spare room where I've got my electronics lab. It is like foobarred, and it's making me want to build. I wish I could just build like a little shed thing out back and just totally build it. Pepsi, you always got to leave so early. What time zone are you in? It's like 6:30 here in Arizona. Oh, you going to what other stream? Don't those guys, you talking about the other HVAC guys, aren't they on Friday nights? I noticed that I was kind of conflicting with another stream that you guys are watching when I did some Friday night ones. And I got an invite to that one. I'm just so all over the place that I haven't joined. So they have one tonight, huh? Man. Where are your loyalties? But I'm not going to be on here too late anyway. Goodman and Amanda have a lifetime warranty. I don't know anything about that. But they do have, they're like Kias where they have some of the best base warranty or something like that. So anyway, here I'll play a video for you guys. I had problems with my laptop, the one that has the programming stuff in it to program my little microcontrollers, and I couldn't get it to work the other day. And then this is a few minutes long. Take a look at how messy my electronics lab is. This is why I was starting to say a minute ago, I'd like to build a shed thing out back or something, just to, with a bunch of some wooden benches, and just permanently mount my scope and all sorts of stuff in there. So, I don't know, check this out. What's up, guys? In my laboratory here, and I've ran into a snag this week. That is that the old, trusty ThinkPad, the old IBM labeled ThinkPad, is taking a shite. A complete one. It will not even turn on. Doesn't matter if I hold the button for 10 seconds or not. So if I unplug the power cable, which look at the size of this sucker. But that's why this thing like never failed, this power plug. If I plug it in, the lights will go on. And then the battery, of course, is bad in this. And that happened a couple months ago. So I just took the battery out and I was able to use it without the battery, just keeping it plugged in. I was like, all right, I'm just still going to use it with no battery. And then it just recently took a shit. If I hit the power button, it just totally goes blank. Huh. Well, I was looking at the laptop, and the power supply actually had its 20 volts. So I kind of plugged in, and then I kind of tapped on this thing. I don't know. And then it just came on. So it might be a little mad, but it's actually powering up. There's the dual boot screen right there. And like a minute later, it's still trying to boot up. So I probably pissed it off, but again, this is not a fast computer. My main PC boots up in seconds, but this thing, you know, I don't know how old it is, but it's old. It's a Intel Centrino Duo. I mean, it's old. Stuff on the screen looks like, but it just did an update, it looks like. There goes all the little images are coming back. 2.5 gigabytes of RAM. This thing shouldn't even be working at all. Okay, we got in and it actually opened the software back where the code I was using. So the thing is, when my microprocessor boots up, the duty cycle, or I should say the frequency, I mean, is at 4 kilohertz, you know, which is a real popular frequency for like, you know, things, switching power supplies and stuff, but it's kind of fast for what I want to do. I did have in the program where I can push buttons and go and slow it down, but it only, I'm trying to remember if I have it programmed to save. Oh, actually I do. I just don't have this program to have the LCD on to see what it's doing. But anyway, I could change it, but it always starts at 4,000, so I'm going to change it down to like 1,000. And then reprogram my chip. The other thing I need to deal with before it quits working altogether is my little programmer interface. I'm using in-circuit serial programming, but see, look, the LED just went out, so there's like a loose connection or something in here. I've tried to like solder the pins and stuff. There's probably a crack in the circuit board or in this actual USB connection, and it didn't want to work for me a while back, and then I finally got it in there to where it did work. So hopefully I can get it to work again now. I just need to order a new programmer and some new cables. One of these days, just don't do it. But look at this place. It's like a freaking mess, so what do you expect? Okay, did it succeed? It succeeded. Yeah. So I think there's a crack in this board or in that switch or something. I've been messing with this thing, but got it to work again. Alright, that video kind of ended abruptly. That's just how it was. I was just putting in a chat. Somebody said, what was it? It said, just wait for the vaccine. I'm like, they could shove that vaccine right up their rear. So Trump kind of bothered me when he said, we're Operation Warp Speed and all this kind of stuff. But as I've been kind of listening to what he's saying, I think he's just as he is. I mean, like his faults are, he's just a businessman. He talks a lot of crap out his butt. Just as he talks, he's like the kind of guy that's really cool, probably if you're like hanging out with him. But he's always like, oh yeah, everything's just great. It's a little bit on the bragging side. That's just his character. But I don't think it's so bad that that's like a big fault in him. I really think he's been persuaded to believe that he's just a businessman, and he's definitely apart from the politicians that we've been having with. So I know he wants like people to like not freak out. So he's been saying, oh yeah, we're working on this vaccine or whatever, which I don't want no freaking vaccine, nothing to do with that. But I don't think he's going to push it hard, especially after the last week. He pretty much, he just finally, even though the election isn't here, he's let it out. He goes, COVID, COVID, COVID. It's all the news wants to talk about. He goes, people need to get back to their lives, and he just need to stop closing down stuff. And I was like, yes, say that. Because, as he said it even. He said, when the cure is worse than the disease, I mean, that is stupid. And that's exactly what they've done. Everything they've done has been worse. The numbers, everybody's finding out that it's total deaths are lower than they are so far than they were for the 3 previous years. At this point, the deaths are lower. And guess what? There's hardly any like flu statistics because everything's been reallocated to statistics for COVID. And I probably shouldn't even say that word. I'll freaking do something in my video. But the convid, as this one guy calls it, and I like that, the convid. It's like, and the awesome thing is this one place I went to, they had this freaking Orwellian freaking thing in there, and it took after I put in my name and number, then it had me stand in front of this camera, and I'm like, and it took my temperature. I'm like, this just went to a third party. Some company just took data of my picture, my temperature, my name, and my phone number. And when I put in my name and number, I thought I was filling out just to log into I was signing into the front desk, but it said, now go stand in front of the camera. I was like, what? And I look, there's this freaking Orwellian piece of shit taking my freaking temperature. And I even said to them, I go, hey, that might be a little on the, I don't know if that thing's even legal. I mean, where'd the info go? I mean, that might be a little invasion of privacy. So the next time I went to that place, that was gone. And less people were wearing their stupid face diapers, and they pretty much never really yelled at me for too much. But I kind of only went on the roof that day where I had that one. I went up to work on that IntelliPack. And then went in there like a week ago or a couple weeks ago and worked on some stuff, and I never put on the mask or nothing. I noticed hardly any of them were wearing it. And then that's when I fixed their thermostat, their pneumatic, because it was blowing out. But I'm like, oh man, and I was testing it, and that's when I found out the VAV was sticking. And sometimes it'd be hot, so that's why I was jacking with it. So I came back the other day, and I got talking to the lady in there, and she was just so on board. And I was kidding with them because I'm like, you bunch of Biden voters, because they had Trump signs everywhere. This is a business, but it's a kind of a contractor business. They had Trump signs all over in their offices, and they had a sign right in front. Like when you walked into the doors, just to your left was a big Trump Pence sign. At a business. And I was like, all right, that takes some balls. But you know what? People in that kind of thing, that's, you notice that's who they're going to, they don't want somebody that's going to put a bunch of regulations that's going to freaking make you have to, go into the red and then charge more, not pay people wages good, all those things. It's crazy. So I got talking to this lady in there for like a little bit while I was testing that thing, and she was totally believing all the same things. She said the freaking thing and all this stuff. And then look at this video. This is the next door to that place. They were the next door neighbors, man. Look at this. Doing COVID testing.
Because the virus is so deadly that they have to get tested to find out if they have it. So they're over there getting tested, wearing their face diapers in their cars so they can make CNN 10 take these statistics, scare the shit out of the sheeple.
Yep. So next door, and I seen it when I was on the roof like the week before. I was up the setting in the IntelliPack to 62 from 55 for the supply air set point. I saw the cones and I saw the sign. Oh gosh, where is it? Put up a sign for that stuff. I'm trying to open my folders here. Should be in my recent history, but I just opened up so much stuff that now it just got moved around, guys. So that kind of sucks. Let's see if I can find it. But they had a big sign. Let's see if this is the folder. I'm looking for a certain picture in there. It's not in there. Oh, is this it right here? Yeah, this is like a week or so before. Drive-through COVID-19 testing, rapidconvidclinic.com, same day results. Same day. They're probably doing the PCR test, which is flawed as hell. So anyway, and then when I went back, they were doing it. This is what they were doing, and who knows what they're doing. But that test is so flawed. But, you know, they get their positives, go the next day, CNN 10, I call them. It's supposed to be, they're Fox 10, but I call them CNN 10 because that seems to be who they're an affiliate for, if anything. They go just in and they put this many cases and this many deaths of COVID. And then you get the people all freaking out. And then they go and get tests. Then the positive tests that they get, people that, you know, the virus that's so deadly, you have to go get tested to even find out you have it, right? Face condom, yeah, face muzzle, face diaper, shame muzzle, all those words. Anyway, yeah, so these people get fear. They go in and take the test. They're not even got symptoms, or they might have some symptoms, but guess what they are? Anxiety. Go in there, get tested. Some of them will be positive. Boom. And the next day, the news is going to run. Got these new cases. Most cases are people that have no symptoms, asymptomatic. Total BS. 99% or plus of the deaths are your typically expected nursing home resident type people dying. It's not people just our age on the street, you know, dying. It's just a bunch of shit. I've had it up to here with it, really. If I wasn't rational, man, I would just have an outburst or something over it. It just makes me mad. So I hardly ever wear them, and I play it. You know, and of course, all the companies, including where I work for, they say, you know, they've got the money, of course, and everything, and then so they got all the PPP, and they give us all the PPP and expect people to use it. You know, they just say it, you know, but I just wait to see how they are. You know, I've gone to a lot of jobs where they're just sick of it, and then if I don't put it on, they don't put it on. When they don't put it on, I don't put it on. And the thing is, sometimes people are putting it on because they see you with it, and you put it on, so they're, you know, I'm going to put it on because this guy's, you know, expects it, vice versa. So I go fast food without it all the time. I've hardly ever been kicked out. I get some looks, but they got this stupid plexiglass barrier, and then I'm going to sit 5 feet over there at their freaking table and eat my food. So it's stupid to have to put it on. Everybody just plays with it anyway. And the one I've been wearing says Trump on it. It's subtle when it's black, but I've been wearing a Trump one for when I do have to put it on. And I take it off as soon as I get to wherever I'm going to work on it. So I've usually only been wearing one for a couple minutes at a time. And I've made it several days at a time without ever putting one on. It's mostly crap. But the businesses we work for, the businesses we shop at, they all are getting money from this trillions of dollars that was thrown into this, you know. And I think Trump doesn't want to put more into it because he knows it makes the debt go up, and he did enough. But he did it. He had to look like he was doing something, you know, as this businessman, and wanting to look like he's, you know, a competent. He shut down, you know, the travel. He did all those things. He gave money for these different things, and he signed the bill, and then the money went to the businesses, but it pays these businesses to profit while they're doing all this, and so then they put all the PPP and mandates on all their employees and customers and everything. It's just a bunch of shit. And other countries are getting worse. Like New Zealand and stuff, man, they're like separating family members and intern camping them, basically. I mean, look this stuff up. It's pretty scary, but they're separating people from their own families, and they just, you know, to protect them and quarantine them and put them in for 2 weeks. And then some places they say you have to test. One place said you had to test twice negative, but the tests are so flawed that after weeks and weeks and weeks goes on and they still get random positives, they're like, this person's obviously immune. This person never had a freaking symptom. So obviously, okay, they changed the rules saying, you know, if it's been long enough, it's been over 2 weeks or so, you could go back to your family or your house or whatever. It's crazy. Some states were talking about, one state, I forget what it was. I don't want to say it was New York, but it was one of those states over there. Somewhere probably by some of you guys, they're talking about if you come into their state, you got to like test negative before you're allowed to be in the state. Crazy, man. Crazy. It's almost like biblical stuff, man. You can kind of see how people could be like made paranoid to turn on their own fellow citizen and just all this crazy Orwellian control. And it could be total BS because it's only a couple authoritative figures are able to be the professionals, and you just have to take their word for it. We have 6,000 doctors who have signed a petition and tens of thousands of other professionals and Americans saying that this was a total overreaching pandemic. And where do you guys see that? Where are you seeing that on the mainstream media? You're not. You're not. So last couple of videos I'll play before I kill it. Here's one. I don't know. It's not a very good one. And just show you a couple photos first. You see a couple Biden chintzy, stupid, stick in the ground Biden signs. Oh, and I hate how some of these photos have been doing this. You know, in the ground, they're like just whatever, the regular, like little disposable signs. Well, the ones that people have been putting up for Trump, they're like this. Like they're building them out of like pipes or whatever this is, unless it's conduit or something. Putting up these big banners, you know. I mean, I don't really care for the bootlicking police one, but I mean, that's fine. The police have been so attacked, it made me defend them when I've been generally critical of them. And I didn't notice that until just now, but what the bloody hell is this? I did not notice this in my photo before. Here's one of your scared citizens with their frickin' face diaper on by herself, and what is this on her head? Here's a little SJW for you. Yeah, it might have been a Halloween thing, so we'll give her that benefit of the doubt. But this was a couple blocks up. And yeah, here's another one. This is not that same one. So somebody, I mean, this is Trump supporters, man. They build stuff, man. Built all these flagpoles and signs and stuck. I mean, these are serious, and there's like dozens of them. And then you have all these, you know, the Biden people barely came out of their freaking basement long enough to stick in a couple ones down in the corner. You can't even see them. These are good. But then we had the Trump trains. So I'll play you a video. The freeways had all bunch of construction, and I had a hard time getting on this freeway and catching up with these. So here's one of our local Trump train events. My brother-in-law was in it here somewhere, and he said, by the way, there were people were purposely like cutting them off. He said, and they're trying to stay just in the middle lane to keep a caravan, but people kept splitting them up. But he said cars are getting in front of them and then slamming on their brakes. You know, probably Goodman lovers. No, they're just Democrats. Slamming on the brakes, slowing them down to like 25 miles an hour in the middle of and he said they would go around and then they'd go and cut somebody else off. And I did notice when we went down and around, which is not going to be seen in this video, but there was a couple, like an accident. So check out this short video. There they are on the other side. That's a big American flag right there. And Trump. Or Chris will be in a black F-150.
Probably right there. Is that her right there? No, it's blue.
You guys see all the Trump flags? Get over there.
Was that it? No, that's a Dodge.
There's the Trump train. We found the Trump train. They were already going by when we got on from Cave Creek Road. Now we're going the opposite direction of them. That's going 60, almost 70 miles an hour this way, and them going the other way. I'm sure we've passed a couple miles of them.
Yeah, so basically the point was we're hauling ass that way. They're going that way. So if I drive for every 1 mile I go, it's not 1 mile of the Trump train going the other way. It's at least 2 miles, right? Or however that would work out. So basically we just keep going down, seeing them, and it's kind of hard to see once we got to this point. So it kind of ended the video, but you could see there's this, you know, a lot of, you know, stuff. I don't know what that flag is, but Trump. You know, tons of it. So when you see some Biden stuff like in the stupid, you know, Weirdoville of like Tempe and stuff, but when you go like but it's still overwhelmingly Trump. And then when you go out of the Phoenix area and we go up in the mountains and stuff, it's almost all Trump. And there was a Trump rally, it looked like, up in Payson today when we were leaving. I almost turned around and went back, but I didn't. Dave, that's when did Goodman start using tubular heat exchanger? Haven't been, I don't know. Haven't they for a long time? I know they used to use this, I don't know if you want to call it clamshell, but it was like two pieces, you know, riveted together or whatever. But I thought they'd been tubular for a while. Another thing I want to show you guys, I don't know if it's here in my thing here. I took some screenshots. There's a video being passed around right now, and people were saying, "Oh, the Trump train," because I guess there's been some Trump trains like that, and this other in Texas, is it? They were doing the Trump train, and they found the Biden bus by coincidence, I think. So people are going. So I guess there was an accident here with the black Ford over here, and this SUV collided, right? So I downloaded the video. It's somewhere in here, and I didn't have it prepared for you guys, but like back a couple seconds before, they're saying that truck hit the car. Well, when you look right here, you see this truck swerve left because it went off road, but all you see right here from this point is it's behind the the Biden bus, I mean, and it pushes back against this SUV, and the SUV swerves out of that lane back into the middle lane. Well, people are saying that truck bumped that car SUV out of that lane. That is not what happened. Here's what what it is the person's filming it. This Biden bus is in the middle lane, changing lanes into the right lane, and I don't have it here in the freeze frame, but this SUV was in the middle lane, and that black Ford truck was already in that right lane the whole time. Where else would he be? It's the most right lane that there is. The Biden bus was taking the gap in front of that F-150 moving over, and that SUV, I don't know if it wasn't paying attention, but it followed behind that Biden bus and smacked into that truck, and that truck pushed it back over. Maybe thought he did it on purpose. I'm giving this SUV, that had it, by the way, in the video, it was an out of state. It was a California plate, I think. So, and I think the person said in the video, they've got a California plate. So they are stupid. They try to follow the bus over. But if you watch this video, the video starts with the bus moving over slowly because it's a bus. The truck was already there. And you'll see the SUV is initially in this middle lane. In the middle lane, there's 3 lanes, and then you'll see when they're colliding and the truck pushes back, they're in the other lane. But the thing is, the problem is the person is filming, and they're like, look at all this, and they pan to the right and look at all the flags next to them, and they go, oh, what happened? And they turn back, and that's right when you see them turn back and the truck's pushing. It looks like the truck's hitting. Well, if you didn't see what happened before, you go, man, that truck just pushed that white SUV out of that lane. But if you rewind and look, because you saw before she panned right, that truck was already in that lane. The white SUV was in the center lane. So if anybody tries to tell you, pass around on Facebook or whatever, that Trump people were bullying a car and smashed into it, it's not what happened. And the SUV either smashed deliberately into that F-150, or there's a chance that it just did it on accident because they were just following the bus. Did somebody already in the lane? The lane was occupied that they cut into, but the truck was already there. And maybe that truck sped up earlier, but the truck was in that lane. I played that video. I moved it back. I downloaded it and moved the playhead back and forth, and the truck was in that lane. The SUV hit it. Well, you watch CNN, MSNBC, and all them lying asses, and they're going to, say differently. So, yeah. So, and what do you guys think of the Joe Biden gibberish stuff like this?
I'll lead an effective strategy to mobilize true international effort to pressure.
Play it again. Listen to that. Wait, how's it? Here we go.
I'll lead an effective strategy to mobilize true international effort to pressure.
Dave's asking, what is my worst unit to work on? Oh, gosh. Well, I always bash Goodman's, but some of the Goodman stuff is actually pretty easy to work on. There are Goodman furnaces. I just saw one today up at the church that we've been going to up in Payson. I said, he said their bill was really expensive. And I guess the gas had gone up, but I opened it up and it was a 90%er. It said a dependable 92 or whatever, and it was a Goodman. Well, when it comes to the split gas furnaces, I mean, the Goodman furnaces pretty much just work, and their circuit boards back when they were making those, they hardly ever changed them. And if they did, it would all just plug right back in, unlike Lennox. So when it came to that part, they were actually pretty easy to work on. And the one thing I was showing them, and I looked, and his hot surface igniter was still that curvy kind. I said, you want to get a new one of those and have it here because it's a 15-minute replacement. But if you don't have it, you're going to be out of heat. He's like, oh, and I said, you know what? Because I mentioned it, I just jinxed you. So you really better go get another hot surface igniter. And I told him, you get the new one, it's going to look like a concrete nail. It's just that little one-piece solid igniter. I go, it's not the wrong one. It's just the upgraded one. You want that because that one will last forever. I've heard of people nailing those into a piece of wood and firing them up, and they don't even burn out. It'll just burn in the wood. So I've never seen one of those new igniters burn out. It's actually kind of silly that they went to that because are they going to sell a bunch of igniters now? But anyway, that was kind of interesting. So he had a 92%er, looked like one of the bigger ones, probably 150,000 BTU or whatever ones in there. I'm like, it's already a 90%er. We don't see those in Phoenix, but I used to work on them all the time up in Payson, Heber, Overguard, and all that. So you just keep that. I wouldn't. He says, should we change it? I said, no. There's nothing. You're not going to get them. There's nothing really more efficient than a 90%er as far as most gas ones do. So we were talking about taking out the window shakers in the main church part and put in a couple mini splits. Even he mentioned mini splits, and I said, you could go a heat pump one, and until it gets really cold, just use it. It might actually, because he said gas, they're like raping them and they up the gas. It's propane up there. You have to derate it for altitude and everything. He said they were just raping them. So maybe the mini split heat pump might kick ass until it gets really cold. So carrier package units are the worst to work on, Igor says. Some of them, I hate just all the zillion screws. I like how trained precedent units. Of course, I don't know if you're talking residential, but in my mind, I just immediately think the 50H, whatever, commercial ones, but trained precedent, I prefer them over that. Oh yeah, freaking York Millennials, man. York Millennial screws. Oh man, the ones that I'm not a pro with them, but I've worked on them enough now at a couple sites, and I guess evidently the unloader, what do you guys call it? The drain blast. Lee, he remembers the drain blaster 2020. What is it called? What is their unloader called? That's the slide valve. I was going to describe it by calling it a slide valve, and that's what they call it, a slide valve. Evidently those, I guess the spring breaks in those things like religiously, and there's one place we have that has that both compressors on this one chiller. Both of them are evidently broken. I've confirmed that the solenoid or whatever gets energized and it changes, but it doesn't unload. So it's all capacity, and it basically caused it to short cycle. So I put a video a month ago or so on that. Change the differential as much as it would let me and stuff on that damn thing. Trained precedent units are nice, especially with the new, no belt on the blower. That's pretty sweet. We have you guys have seen this video.
The kinds of investment that will stimulate the deal.
If you're poor, you cannot do it. Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids.
Joe screwed the pooch on that one.
Trump Towers, he said he was doing it before he hit the ground floor. Remember what he said? He said, I'm going to take on those rapist Mexicans. Then he claimed, no,
he's getting booed.
Never been a president.
That's a lie, Joe.
Never been a president.
Yeah.
That's a lie.
Oh, it is a lie.
Yeah. And it was your son in the Ukraine.
Ooh.
All right.
Dementia's going to kick it down, Joe.
Yeah. You're the one that offered to withhold $1 billion. The Council on Foreign Relations. Son of a bitch, he got fired, right?
Was that not badass? I kept a couple of these clips. You find them on Twitter and stuff.
I have never said I oppose fracking.
You said it on tape.
I did. Show the tape. Put it on your website.
I'll put it.
So remember this? He goes, I never said I'd ban fracking. Trump says, you said it on tape. Biden says, I never showed on put it on tape. Then he goes, Trump says, I'll put it on my website. So I'll back that up and we'll play the whole thing.
I have never said I oppose fracking.
You said it on tape.
I did. Show the tape. Put it on your website.
I'll put it on.
Would there be any place for fossil fuels, including coal and fracking, in a Biden administration?
No, we would work it out. We would make sure it's eliminated.
What about, say, stopping fracking and stopping pipeline infrastructure and
no new fracking. You got to transition away from it. Look, you're going to ban fracking all across America right now, right?
I would love to.
Yeah, I'd love to too. I'd love to make sure we can't use any oil or gas. Period.
See that?
I guarantee you. We're going to end fossil fuel. We are using little fossil fuel.
Man. I know I usually put a lot of this stuff kind of on my channel, which is lately finished on my videos, but I think this is on all of our minds. It's so kooky right now. Just can't help it just to finish up the video, but I mean, it just does affect us at this point. It's just so nutty.
Any place for fossil fuels, including coal and fracking, in a Biden administration?
No, we would work it out. We would make sure it's eliminated and no more subsidies for either one of them.
CNN, that's all they cover. COVID, pandemic, COVID. You know why? They're trying to talk everybody out of voting. People aren't buying at CNN, you dumb bastards. They're not buying it.
Yeah! I played that video clip last week for you guys, I think. I can't believe the idiots are voting for this piece of garbage. Biden, you're saying? Yeah, well... our second old daughter, her and her husband voted for Biden. The brainwashing is complete. And guess why? They don't know anything about Biden. It's because Orange Man bad. Telling my other daughter, which I had to straighten her out, said, no, this means white power. This is a white supremacist. He throws white supremacist signs. I go, you guys idiots? I actually said, you guys are idiots. Got caused a little bit of trouble the other day. Yeah, when she came over with her grandkid or whatever, I'm like, idiots. I'm like, you think he's going to give you free shit? He's not going to give you anything. He's friggin' lying to you. Man, I go, once you guys work a little longer and once you get off, to where you're not at the bottom, the food chain and, in your careers, you know what? And you notice, your what you pay out in taxes and everything and how the things fluctuate like gas prices and everything, you won't want to vote for frickin' socialists. Just crazy, huh? Harris. Yeah. Yep. So that's just an awesome clip where he calls them dumb bastards. CNN, you dumb bastards. That is awesome.
One campaign strategy seems to be to call Biden a criminal. Why is that?
He is a criminal. He's a criminal. He got caught. Read his laptop. And you know who's a criminal? You're a criminal for not reporting it. You are a criminal for not reporting it. Let me tell you something. Joe Biden is a criminal, and he's been a criminal for a long time. And you're a criminal in the media for not reporting it. Good luck, everybody. Have a good time. Have a good time.
You dumb bastards. So David's asking if I like old ream furnaces from the 90s. The ream furnaces in the 90s that are your regular split system ones, they're fine. They're just a regular in-shot burner with the hot surface igniter and a flame sensor. They work. The ones that they were kind of still in production a little bit back then were these the package units, and they might have been more of the 80s type. And I was just working on them a lot in the 90s, but I don't know if production went into the 90s. But they had instead of a hot surface igniter or a sparker, with the flame sensor, they had what were they lighting it with? They were lighting it with some sort of electronic means, but it would light. Okay, it would be a pilot. It lit a pilot with a sparker, I believe, and then it'd have to heat up a probe. It was temperature, so it heated up. And it was build up pressure, and it was a flame switch. They call it a flame switch. A couple people, and they used them on a couple brands, but Rheem was using that, and they would go bad. And I eventually started replacing them with like the Honeywell smart valves. They used to use 24-volt hot surface igniter and built-in flame sensor with a pilot, intermittent pilot they call it. It lights it with that, proves it, and then it brings on the main burner. Those were temperamental though, but they were a pretty cool setup, kit. You used to get them in a kit. It was pretty cool at the time because you could put a Honeywell smart valve in place of a standing pilot furnace or whatever, and it had basically all that built in. It's good if you add some sort of, rollout switches or something though.
Ever heard this president say one negative thing about white supremacists?
On and on. And, you saw the first two debates. They both just grilled him on that. He's answered this so many times over the years. And this thing that makes me mad is people are telling my kids, oh, yeah, he's a white supremacist. And I'm like, where do they get this from? Have you looked at him? I mean, his history, he actually has gotten awards from organizations and stuff for helping communities and stuff.
How many times do I have to reject? I've rejected David Duke. I've rejected the KKK, the Ku Klux Klan.
That's the reason I got back in this race, because what happened in Charlottesville. People coming out of the woods carrying torches, their veins bulging. Close your eyes and remember what you saw. And a young woman gets killed resisting the hate and violence, and the president gets asked to comment on it. What's he say? He says they're very fine people on both sides.
Isn't what he said.
You had people,
like that.
And I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists.
That's what
because
he said.
They should be condemned totally. But you had many people in that group other than neo-Nazis and white nationalists, okay?
He wouldn't even condemn David Duke, for God's sake.
When you say the party is self-destructing, what do you
2000,
see as
look at the year of
biggest
this.
problem
February
with the Reform
2000.
Party right now?
Well, you've got David Duke just joined, a bigot, a racist, a problem. I mean, this is not exactly the people you want in your party.
You know why they're not? Because they don't want to pick it up. They pick it up. You pick it up. Everyone else picks it up. You saw simultaneously, practically at the same time. They don't want to pick it up. And one of the questions, that question was asked, and I rejected it there. That news conference was like a day before. So I said to myself, how many times do I have to reject or disavow?
Let me ask you this question. What about David Duke is saying to his supporters and followers, vote for Donald Trump. White supremacists are saying, vote. Do you want those votes?
No, I don't want them, and I don't want him to say it. I can't help if he says it, but I don't want it, and if he says it, John, if he says it, he says it, okay?
Yeah.
Do I want it? No.
That was the last clip I had for you guys. Pretty much, I think I didn't show, but yeah, it's just like, I mean, what could you do? I mean, you've seen all those clips. He said it over and over, and then every time they bring him on, I mean, you have Biden in his campaign, criticizing, making claims, but you also had the frickin' debate moderator claiming all that crap. I mean, how do you even have a debate when they're just coming at you with that all the time instead of talking policy? Didn't even get a chance to talk policy. It's a bunch of shit. It's just so crazy. Anyway, Dave was asked about something. I can't remember which flame sensor you're talking about, but come to think of it, I know there was also some intermittent pilot controls that would have it would spark, and then it would the same probe that was doing the sparking to the pilot hood was also the sensor, and then it would once it would stop sparking, it would detect it, and it would bring on the main burner. So I hardly ever have to work on that stuff down here. It's hardly ever in that stuff. And then the only thing that was gas that I've really gotten into much, this week, which I showed you that video already, was that big boiler, and it had one of those big flame controllers, from Honeywell, that has all the staging and, and the safeties plug into it and stuff. So, yep. So, that's probably about it. I kind of, just wanted to end again with some of that stuff at the end. More funny pictures. There you go. Should say Harris Biden, huh? Looking through screenshots or whatever I've got. But who's used the Measure Quick software that works on lots of various like Testo. I have Testo. So you could use Testo with this app, but this app will also work with other brands. So somebody keep telling me about it, and I haven't dug into this. I heard that you could set up entire set up a customer, do all this stuff, and it'll like make a printout basically when you get done, which is cool. The only thing I didn't like was you had to flip to one of the other screens to see the when I used my Testo smart probes and the pressure and superheat subcooling one, but then I also used the Testo air temperature probe. Well, on my Testo app, it'll show them all on the same screen, and I could just screenshot it and just put it, you know, with our file or whatever. But with this one, I have to flip to another screen. I haven't gotten far enough with this app called MeasureQuick to really see all its capability. But I've seen our startup guys. I've seen a sheet they've given me that came from them using this, and it would have like all the details of the job. I think you put in the model serial number, everything, and then I think it just gives you a texted, like printed out, like all the readings and stuff. So, what are you saying? You wish people would stop hacking units to do the job right? Yeah. Well, it also depends on the company. When they pay people by the job and not by the hour, they'll really start getting kind of crappy like that. You know, like we're that one place here. You know, they would their techs are all out there leaving capacitors into the capacitor mount, pulling off the wires, sticking them on the new capacitor, and just pushing the new capacitor, you know, with it left in its cardboard box into the unit, and just holding it in place with the electrical panel. You go the next tech, you go pull the cover off, and out comes the capacitor in your lap. You know, like what the hell? Just total crap. Did the ghetto place with the jacked up EMS controls ever get straightened out? They're quoting them for repairs. So the guy met me out there, and he found weird stuff, man. I knew that place was screwed up, so I don't know what kind of hit it took, but those EMS controllers, the guy was showing me, he goes, this is a 2-state variable, supposed to be. And we're like, look, it's like jumping around like a variable of like 200 and something, like an 8-bit variable, you know, which would go up to 0 to 255. He said he was given some crazy numbers, so those numbers meant nothing. I think it was supposed to be occupied, unoccupied, or something. And that was dancing around, and that's why like this VFD up on the roof was turning off and on. And if you stop a VFD-controlled motor, so you take away the enable of the VFD, then turn it back on while it's coasting, sometimes it's like it's coasting, but then it gives like a low frequency. It'll like pull high current because it's like the motor's spinning right when it's trying to turn the rotations of the magnetic field like a couple hertz. Boom, throws the freaking overcurrent, and it only does it every once in a while that it trips or does it enough that I guess it locks out or whatever. And I think that's ABB drive at that location. And I'll randomly just get service calls for half the place ain't cooling. Got a big air handler up on the roof, couple of them, and the one freaking VFD. I'd always keep resetting it, never finding anything wrong until I finally saw that the EMS was randomly turning off the enable. You know, they'd start coasting the motor, and then it would go back on and speed back up. Then a couple minutes later, it would coast and then speed back up, and it would have that like missing enable or whatever warning you get or whatever. I think it's whenever it sees a 2 through 10 volt signal but no enable like run command, it gives you that fault. Through here, so I think that was it. We slowed down a little bit this week, so trying to look through my photos. Of course, you know, thought I saved some, but basically just, I don't know, this thing's still just pissing me off with the convid thing. Wish I could find where that screenshot video was, but I probably better go. But anyway, before I go, I guess I'll just say as a kind of like I got some stuff hooked up down in my garage. That's where I have 230 volts, and I've been plugging in, and I have I basically, to be simple, I've got one VFD plugged into the 230 volt single phase in, and I'm taking its DC out and plugging it into another VFD because I have a couple VFDs. It's real easy to hook it up. And then I'm just in between the two. I have a MOSFET on a heatsink, and I'm just pulsing it to like try just to test the MOSFET and some circuitry and optical isolators. I have a driver working. Actually worked pretty good. The optical isolator is not. They make optical isolators with not a phototransistor output, which a lot have, but a photovoltaic output, which basically the diode makes energy that and it shines on a photovoltaic cell inside, like a solar cell basically, and it makes its own DC output. They make those to drive MOSFETs, and it's like you don't have to have any electrical power added to the output. It's truly isolated. It just doesn't put enough output to drive this big MOSFET I bought. So I'm using a regular photo optical isolator with a basically photo transistor, right? And I just got it powered, but 5 volts fed to it wasn't enough to turn on the MOSFET properly. Then I hooked up 12 volts. And so it must be one of those MOSFETs that needs at least 7 volts or something, you know. So, or 7, 8 volts. So 12 volts, man, it turns it on nicely. I like kind of was pulsing it and lowering the voltage a little bit and just letting it run. But I don't have the motor I have doesn't have a load on it, so I couldn't really do a full test. But I wanted to see how hot the MOSFET was going. But as long as you gate them fully, they don't. You want completely on, completely off. They don't make much heat. It's that in between transient where MOSFETs, you know, or transistors in general, when they're like not, you know, completely open or completely closed, they make a lot of heat. So I'm working on that still, and then so I kind of got that kind of situated on my design, and then like I said, I need to be able to read the 300 volts, 300 voltage, you know, that I'm actually going to be regulating. I need to regulate that. I need to be able to take that voltage and make that an input into my microprocessor. And the only way I could think of doing it simple is to voltage divide it and then feed that into a optical isolator without blowing it up, because it's going to be a divided voltage from a high voltage source. Try to do it right, and then send it in there and have a variable, you know, a photo optical isolator that will give me some sort of a variable range on the output, so it'll actually make a variable going into my microprocessor that can see that. With all the interference and stuff, again, like I said at the beginning of the video, I'm like an amateur electronics guy, so I mean, I'm not like somebody, you know, in a lab or anything doing it, but I have to keep figuring stuff out on the way. And sometimes you'll think something works on paper and you kind of work, but interference and all kind of stuff will make it kind of, you know, all over the place. But I had it working in my electronics room to a lower scale using like a 24 volt transformer output, which rectified to like 30 volts, and I was regulating that down to 12. And I was programming my microprocessor, dividing that voltage down, optical isolator into my microprocessor, and it had a MOSFET, you know, to regulate the output before it went to a fan I was running in there, 12 volt fan, and it was actually working fine. It was regulating. It was regulating, you know, set it and the threshold and into the microprocessor, and it regulated. It was pretty cool. And it was varying the pulse width modulation. It was really cool, but obviously it wasn't. And it I just reset this stupid thing a few minutes ago, trying to remember if I reset this enough, then it won't ever cut out. But if I just leave this on for several minutes without touching it, it freaking does that. So I don't know where it cut out for you guys, but basically I was just saying, you know, I need to work on my stuff, but I'm kind of frustrated because it's a mess in there. I have some of it down in the garage. I don't have the high voltage up in my electronics room. I want to make maybe a shed or something, but I'm going on a trip in like 3 weeks. So it looks like I kind of missed the boat for the summer. So I think my solar thing, I'm going to just work on this probably throughout the winter and try to have it ready before next summer. So now that the weather's changing. So, but hopefully the one thing I might want to do is I might want to set up myself a little more of a serious electronics workbench area. I might just build something this winter in the backyard, say, fuck it. You know, we have the HOA and we have the city and everything, and I have the main road backs my house so you can see everything right there. So I'm thinking of maybe building something and then putting lattice work. I'm trying to brainstorm how to trick like the HOA, the city. So I'm thinking of like building something. I want it tall enough to be able to stand in it. Something in my backyard, and maybe put lattice on the back and like quickly put a bunch of plants on it. So from the street, all they see is like plants growing on something, and they'll think it's some stupid plant thing, because the wife wants me to tear out the fig tree. She wants the fig tree gone, which means I'm going to jackhammer out the concrete octagon gay thing that they put around it, the previous owners, and maybe put some grass there. She wants artificial grass, but I don't know how I'm going to do all this. If for some reason, I mean, it's a catch-22. I mean, the stimulus money is just debt. But if they give us another stimulus check, I'll probably put it into doing that, building myself something out back. So if I could build my electronics room, and I'll put more solar panels out there on it, and I'll put a mini split. I want to run mini split off of solar panels. That's my other thing I want to do. I want to run that, make that thing cool for free in that electronics lab if I build it out back. Build it out there, and I want to put like a nice wooden bench, you know, maybe put like a nice top on or something I just change. And then put like another level of like a wooden thing above it, but not as deep maybe, and put my meters up there. I want to mount like maybe some rack meters. I don't know, probably buy some cheap shit off of Amazon or something. I need to upgrade that big ass ugly scope I have. All the knobs and potentiometers are getting all touchy, so I need to. They sell some pretty decent ones for like $300-400 that are LCD with a little bit of memory. I want to like mount maybe one on like a rack. Just start mount like a good voltmeter up there, you know, and maybe have like to where I can like pull the like have the cables like kind of routed or whatever, and that way I could just maybe just hook them up out of the way, you know, but keep everything all wired up, and maybe I could get some serious with some projects again, you know. Maybe get some good light right there, because, you know, I can't see close without these anymore. And these are progressives, so I don't know. Just getting older. I'm over 50 now. So, but, you know, I never had that kind of stuff when I was younger, the tools and everything like I do now. But anyway, like I said earlier, I'm just too all over the place. I'm not an obsessive guy to obsess on one thing and just follow through on it. So, and then my friend texted me earlier today, and I was at church looking. He wants to see if I'm interested in helping him putting a turbo on his motorcycle, you know, a street bike. I think he's got one of those. Is it a Victory? I think he has. He has one of those fuel injected bikes. So, and I was saying, you know, oh yeah, we go to Arizona Tractor Turbo, get you a turbo. You know, maybe you find an intercooler off of eBay. And he said the people he knows don't use an intercooler. I go, well, you might not, but I found out the hard way that without an intercooler, that air is getting over 200 degrees after the compressor and the turbo where it goes into the engine. And I think he's got an air-cooled engine, so I would probably put a small intercooler on there, or that may at least do water meth. But might be interesting. And, you know, I asked him what RPM range it is. He said like 57 something, so it doesn't sound like it's a high revving engine, so you'd probably keep the turbo a little small so it spools and makes torque. If it's too, you know, when they're smaller, kind of like on the Ford EcoBoosts, they pull like right away. But when you get in the upper RPMs, after you get over 4,000 RPMs, it doesn't just keep like, you don't feel an increasing amount of power. It just makes the power and then it stays like, it feels the same all the way up to redline. In fact, you probably lose, the torque probably actually starts dropping down a little bit because the turbo's small. So you don't make a real high horsepower number, but you make a good mid torque range. And it's just basically like having a bigger engine. And that's all Ford's doing with their EcoBoost. It's not a performance engine per se. It's a small engine replacing a big engine. But I'll tell you guys this. There's no naturally aspirated regular half-ton truck with a V8 that can touch an EcoBoost V6 F-150. That's not even close. That's like the EcoBoost, and I finally got one of my own. And it's a used one, but it's, you know, it's not even the newest one. But the power, it's like kind of like driving a sports car from a dead stop. 6,000 pound 4-wheel drive, just scooting. It will spin those 32-inch, you know, all-terrain tires. You know, factory stock, not even tuned. So they're cool. You recently got the 2.3 liter there, Adam. I just saw somebody swapped one of those into a Fox body. They did a really nice job on it, and they changed the subframe, I think, and maybe they didn't have to on that one, but they did. It was pretty cool. I just saw it the other day. Dave's asking some HVAC stuff, and I've been going all over the place on other HVAC stuff on this HVAC channel. If you come across a burnt fan motor that put black smoke in the building, oh, that'd be a yes. That'd be a yes, Dave. Oh, several times. You could actually have one. They'll set off not only will the electronics burn, but if the electrical windings, but if there's oil that's built up in there, you know, from leaking bearings or from whatever's in the air from the building, that will burn, and you'll set off smoke detectors. It'll be visible smoke in the building. So yes, and then back to Adam, talking about the EcoBoost 4-cylinder. Those are like 310 foot-pounds of torque. I think they're closer to 350 on the Mustang, right? And 310 in the Ranger, something like that. Horsepower numbers, 300-ish. It's not built, it's horsepower, it's low in torque. So, he said Uncle Jeff owns franchise of Server Pro. Okay, is that like one of those chain places, like a HVAC repair place? Yeah, I've had fire departments show up, Adam, for, unless you're talking about the car. I don't know if Adam's talking about the smoky motor Dave's talking about. But I've seen fire departments go out and then shut down the disconnect on units, and then we show up, and that's what it was. I had a train package unit do that, older train one, but do that like on a place a couple years ago. Whole 3-story building or something. Fire department had showed up. Eco Boom. You know, the thing about EcoBoost, I watch a lot of channels and Ford techs. And here's the thing about the EcoBoost, from what that seems to be the thing is spam. They're not an engine to neglect. It has like the 3.2.7, 3.5. 3.5 is a real popular one. They have a really long chain, one chain that goes up from the crank around both. It's a twin overhead cam, and then down and over the other twin overhead cam and back. If you don't change the oil and use good oil, those links will start stretching, and eventually you get a code for that. And then just other stuff that happens. A lot of it's from people not using good oil and changing their oil. Some of it could be from humidity and stuff in certain climates. We don't have that issue here. They had they added on the newer ones, which mine doesn't have. They added port injection back on, so it's in direct injection and port injection. But mine has 88,000 miles on it, and it still runs like a freaking sports car. It's great. It's hard not to want to freaking throttle it. And when I don't throttle it, my 6,000-pound four-wheel drive four-door truck's getting me 20 miles a gallon driving around. And you ain't getting that with the V8s. And it will also stomp all the naturally operated V8s just into the ground. I mean, there's just no comparison. You could take a Chevy with the bigger freaking, engine in it and line up from a dead stop at an intersection, and an EcoBoost is gone before that guy even can get into his power band. Before that 5.3, which is real popular, gets into its power band, the taillights are freaking 60 feet in front of you from the guy with the EcoBoost. Such are the 3.5. The 2.7's a little more tame, but they're just gone. And then, you want to get an F450 with the 7.3? I was just watching several videos the other day of people already doing swaps with the 7.3, and they're trying to get a kit for they're building kits to put those into the Fox bodies. It's more narrow than the 4.6. That was such a wide engine, so it's pretty cool engine, and it's good for, as Ford it's leaving, it's good for 600-700 horse reliably with build with mods to get to that horsepower for induction, but the internals are good. No shit, huh? I bought this stupid headset on it. I'm gonna have to like I need to go on there and see if anybody responded to my Amazon rating. I think I put a rating on it for this thing shutting off on me, and I'm pissed off about it. But I forgot what you guys are saying, but the truck I got, I was just saying I got it because it was the reason I got the one I got is because I was looking for new ones going out at the end of 2019. You know, the 2019 is going out the door, new ones, but the ones at the clearance out, they didn't have any with the shifter. I want the shifter down here. I don't want it up on the freaking tree or whatever they call it. I want it down on the console. I love the F-150s with the shifter down there, and you can just rest your hand on and use the mode buttons and stuff and the downshift button. So he had to show me. He said, "We have this one," and we looked at it and go, "Yeah," and so it's fully loaded, but it's used, so I didn't have to pay the 60 grand. But I'm making payments on it like I would have a lower model new one. But I really enjoy the truck. I wish it had the newest sync that had the built-in Google, the Android Auto, because our minivan, which now we're going to sell probably, I have a $700 Kenwood I put in it. It has Android audio or whatever you call it in there, which when you plug your phone in, it mimics your phone up on the screen, and you just talk to it, and then all the Google Maps and your audio apps and everything are just on the touch screen of your stereo. The new vehicles are coming with that factory, but being that mine's a used F-150 Platinum, it doesn't have that. It has a touch screen, but it sync 2 or whatever it probably is, but it doesn't have the newest one. It doesn't have the new one. Maybe I can upgrade it, but I usually I'm just Bluetoothing and using my phone anyway for the most part, and just touching on my phone with the mount I put in there. But the only thing that I'm missing is I've used the Android Audio, and I kind of wish my factory had, the touchscreen had it in there. But oh well. But it has the big opening top, and like I said, the seats are heated and cooled, and it's got electric. My handicapped helps for my handicapped daughter getting her in there, because you open the door, the freaking step comes down, and she could step on it. So, and it's fast. And with a tuner, you could put, you get these things up to 500 horses. But it's actually irresponsible, and the truck hauls freaking ass. I just went up into the hill again to Payson and back. And you can slow down to 60 miles an hour and just edge into the throttle on these. You don't have to floor them. And it will go right up to the freaking speed governor of like 100 and something plus miles an hour on the big hills. So cough there. Yeah, it's fast. It actually, for a four-wheel drive, it scoots. It's actually pretty fun. But if you can kind of like not get into the boost, it's actually pretty good on mileage, several miles per gallon better than the V8 that the engine would replace. So, as I was saying earlier, it's more performance than any of the standard V8s you're going to get in a half-ton truck. It's not even close. But then when you get into the mountains, the difference is even more apparent, because with turbos, when I get up into the high altitude, it might just add a little lag, but other than that, you have your full output. Meanwhile, you're in there with your common Chevy 5.3 or Dodge 5.7 or 6.4 it is, or whatever like that, and you're down 80% of your power, So the EcoBoost already has more power to begin with, but then when you're up in the mountains, it's like even more noticeable. So the truck just hauls ass. Even up there in Payson, you get up there and you're almost a mile high, and you come to a stop, and then you go. On regular vehicles, you hit the throttle from a dead stop, and it's like, oh, I left my power down there, in the valley, closer to sea level. Up there, it has a smidge of lag, and then it'll still spin the tires. It's like awesome. Especially when you get up there, somebody tries to get in the lane and they want to take you from a dead stop, unless they have a truly like fast car. Just a typical, your typical, comparable vehicles, they just get blown away if you have a Ford with an EcoBoost engine in it. They're just fast. They're fast from a real low RPM. And most of the time, it doesn't even come out of high gear going up the hills. It just stays at like 1,900 RPMs at 72 miles an hour on the cruise control and just walks up the grades. You don't even hear the engine. Speaking of hearing the engines, the one thing I won't do is put a Flowmaster on it. Try to tell my brother-in-law not to, and he did on his. Same year truck and same engine, and his has that goofy V6 sound. And I know better. I know that the engine does not sound good out the exhaust if you make it loud. So, Coyote engine sounds good. The EcoBoost does not. EcoBoost keep quiet and just enjoy the secret power. So before I go, it's a couple of these things. We lost me on the 7.3 conversions. Well, I was watching some videos the other day, and there's several people already working on the 7.3 kits to put those in the Fox body Mustangs, older Ford trucks, and just hot rods in general. And the key thing is now people were putting LS engines in because they're simple, narrower, you know, because they're one cam in the block, not a overhead cam, real wide bastard, which does suck to get to the exhaust and everything. They're so wide in an engine bay. So this one's more compact, and it's got the bore spacing, they said, is closer to a small block, so they're calling it a small block, but it's 400 and something cubic inches, and it could be punched out to closer to, you know, upper 400s. They said there's enough meat in the cylinders for that. So, and I forget what the compression ratio is. It's already up there a little bit, but they said, you know, you can still put, you know, be able to put boost on it. So, yep. Igor was talking about sharing photos. Yeah. Oop. Cortana. What the hell? You dirty horse. Yeah, that's weird. So, yeah, maybe unless you put them in like a Google Drive and then give me the link, I can open it. I think that's something people can do. Or if you have OneDrive, you can share a link. Yeah. And then, God, I'm sweating a little bit. See if the air got turned off. And then Dave's asked about feel a lemon with a motor caught on fire and started to smoke the building. When was that? That was a while back. I don't remember now. It could have been that train one. I can't remember when the Lennox one did it, but maybe it did. But yeah, they will. Indoor motors can definitely smoke out a building. They'll set off the smoke. And if people don't know what it is, they'll call the fire department. And then, yep, they'll be the first ones on the scene. So, Lennox. I don't remember which one that was. That must have been a while back if you've been watching a while. So, anyway, I need to get going. I told my wife it was only going to be a few minutes. And what's it say for the time? Where does it tell me? It's not telling me on that screen. Maybe it tells me on this screen. Where is it? I'm trying to see how long this video's been. What the hell, Cortana? Oh, here it is. 1 hour, 55 minutes. Oh, man. Yeah, I've been on a long time. Come across an overheated furnace? Oh, wait, back when I was in the mountains all the time, you know, furnace is getting really hot if your the limits got screwed up. So, yeah, it says 1 hour, 55 minutes up here on this thing right there. 1 hour, 56 minutes now. So, yep. So, all right. Well, I need to cut it. I'm just rambling on now, but I'm just kind of sweating a little bit. So, anyway, nice chat. Should have done this on Friday, but this was busy, and then Saturday was busy. So, anyway, with that, I'll catch you guys later. Maybe I'll get some new interesting stuff for this week. So, I'll catch you guys later. I'm not remembering exactly which one you're talking about, Dave, but if you see in my old videos, you could find the video link and show it to me next time. So I gotta go check on what's going on downstairs. So we'll see you guys later on in the week. Late.